Pues vamos a dejar un par de minutos más. Yo me presento, soy Jordi Oliva, soy cofundador de la organización Good Karma Projects, que llevamos trabajando a través de la educación y la acción ambiental con el tema de los pellets de plástico desde 2018. Y bueno, voy a ser encargado de dirigir un poco el webinar. Vamos a hacer una pequeña introducción para quien no conozca lo que son los pellets de plástico. Y luego, pues os voy a explicar nuestra experiencia desde la organización y cómo a través de la ciencia ciudadana hemos conseguido pues, tener un impacto notable, digamos, en poder cambiar las cosas y mitigar la contaminación por pellets de plástico, concretamente en el Mediterráneo. Voy a empezar compartiendo pantalla. Podéis ver la presentación. ¿Confirmáis con un OK? Sí, perfecto. Pues no queda nadie más para entrar, vamos a empezar. Bueno, primeramente, muchísimas gracias a Fidra por la invitación y a todos y todas las ponentes por las presentaciones que han preparado para hoy. Y simplemente vamos a empezar. Os voy a presentar brevemente la organización. Good Karma Project nace en 2017 de dos surfistas e ingenieros amantes del surf que un día después de surfear nos encontramos las playas, pues como ya sabréis, pues llenas de todas las basuras marinas que el mar nos devuelve con los temporales y empezamos y decidimos a hacer algo. Y entonces así empieza la organización, empezamos a trabajar con proyectos educativos que antes desembocaron en proyectos de ciencia ciudadana y a través de otras colaboraciones. Y hoy os voy a presentar el proyecto Pellets, que es el proyecto enfocado al estudio y de la contaminación, del alcance de impacto de los pellets de plástico en el Mediterráneo occidental. Para las personas que no conozcan qué son los pellets de plástico son la materia prima a partir de la cual se fabrica cualquier producto de plástico. Me gusta explicarlo, bueno, me enseñaron a explicarlo así muy fácil, pero básicamente en una máquina entran los pellets de plástico y por la otra salen botellas de plástico, salen gafas, juguetes, cualquier producto de plástico de uso cotidiano. Estos, a diferencia de otros microplásticos, bueno, se encajan en la familia de microplásticos primarios, a diferencia de los secundarios son los que, digamos, por acción de los rayos UVA, el salitre y la temperatura es el desgaste que sufren los plásticos que van haciéndose en partes más pequeñas y los microplásticos primarios son aquellos que se vierten en el medio ambiente ya en esta forma. Otros ejemplos serían pues, los microplásticos que se encuentran dentro de los cosméticos o los del desgaste de los neumáticos, por ejemplo. Son unas bolitas del tamaño
Microplastics in cosmetics.
de 3 a 5 milímetros.
They are the size of a lentil, 3 to 5 millimeters, and they act as magnets for toxins and persistent organic pollutants. If you say how dangerous they are for the environment, if animals eat them, they are dangerous. And also when there are specific accidents, like in Sri Lanka, where we saw pictures of the pellets being eaten by seabirds. Another impact that's less visible like the toxins and POPs, they accumulate on the water surface, and these adhere to the pellets and can go to the trophic chain when they are eaten by animals. So how do these pellets get to the marine environment and to our coasts? I'm going to explain a practical case, but now I'll continue with theory. The pellets, which is a startup of the plastic value chain. Crude is extracted, polymers are made, and at these polymer factories, then they have to carry to a logistics company that will package them, send them to a transformer. On the right, you can see a picture that explains a bit what happens. But basically, they can be lost along the value chain at any point. Here, a couple of pictures. The one on the left are examples from Tarragona. We come from a place 100 kilometers south of Barcelona in Spain, and there's the biggest petrochemical complex. And these are some of the pictures of the reality on this industrial activity. So the story of how we started in a very rudimentary manner through citizen science to address this. We found a picture like on the right, the La Pineda beach, next to the petrochemical complex. And can you see these red lines? I don't know if you can see them, but in Tarragona, we have the biggest petrochemical complex in the south of Europe. As I said, over 2 million tons of plastic pellets are made annually, which is about 1% of total world production. The Ministry of Ecological Transition in Spain say that this is the main source for primary microplastics. How do these pellets get to the sea? Manufacturers, in the case of Tarragona, manufacturers, distributors, or logistics operators, they are located in the River Francolí area. This is the main river here. This is a basin of the Rio Francolí. There's a sort of funnel here, and they get to the Tarragona port and then go to this La Pineda beach. We've been documenting the existence of these plastic pallets along rivers and streams up to 20 kilometers inland. And these pellets get there through small leakages that there may be along the value chain. When they open the packs, when they repackage them, when they load all this onto trucks, so that in the silos in which 250 or 300 tons can be stored, and the truck drives under these silos and thus is loaded. When we have heavy rain in the midst of this polygon, we can find rivers that violently drag along whatever they find and pour it into the sea. And this is what you can find in the beaches near the mouth of the river. Today in other presentations, we'll see this, but unlike those found on the Atlantic coast or those in the Five Jacks, we find them new, transparent. They haven't gone yellow because of the sun rays or the salts. So we have the sad record in 2022 where we carried out our most important recorded action, where we gathered close to 2 million plastic pellets. I mean, we wanted to know the surface density of pellets. It's about 22,000 pellets per square kilometers in the area of accumulation, which is here in the east of Cap Salou. This is the areas where the pellets pour into the sea. and then they go on to the beach. But as surfaced, our main concern weren't the pellets arriving on the beach, but most of the time, the winds were blowing offshore and would thus push pellets into the sea. Together with other entities of these islands, Majorca and Menorca, we realized that this pollution was extended to other areas, such as the biosphere reserve in the north of Menorca. This is what we did together with Mar Viva. On the right, you can see microplastics, many pellets here that get as far as the beaches on the north of these islands. So we launched MedPellets to carry out a scientific study with the purpose of showing that arrival on the beaches was systematic. And we wanted to know what the dynamics of pollution were. Together with the University of Barcelona, we carried out a study and were able to present it with the Surfrider Foundation at the European Parliament. Towards the end of 2023, we compiled all information of our work since the end of 2018 in a request for environmental responsibility addressed to 13 companies that were looked into over these years and were forced to adopt measures. This is framed within the European regulation adopted a few months ago. And in Tarragona, at least 3 companies have been forced to adopt measures for preventing pellet leakages, as well as regarding transparency and reporting. So we like sharing this story or this case study because by studying this pollution more massively through information and data, we were able to get things to change. I mean, many times we can't quantify pollution on a beach. So, after this presentation, I didn't want to take up too much time, but I'd like to give the floor to Heather now. Heather McFarlane manages projects within FIDRA on plastic and chemical pollutants. With a background in chemistry, Heather has worked for science and environmental NGOs around the world, developing strategies to engage policymakers, industry, and the public at large in positive change. So Heather, whenever you wish, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you. Can you all see the presentation on the screen? Let's see. My name is Heather, and I work for an organization, an NGO called FIDRA. I am the project director of the organization, and the Global Nurdle Hunt is a global science citizen project organized by FIDRA itself. The nurdles or pellets are very small plastic balls used to manufacture almost all our plastic products. The Great Global Nurdle Hunt gathers data on this issue, on this pollution issue, and proves that plastic pellets pollute rivers, oceans, and beaches around the world. It is very easy to participate in the project. You choose a particular beach and you find the nurdles, you count them, and you write down the time that it took you or that took the organization to do it. You register how many people participated in the action and you register all this data. And that's it. In order to help you, we can share some images to download. You can use them in your communications. For example, we can prepare an identification nurdle guide for different participants. And now let's move to why. Why should we participate in such a project? Well, you have to create awareness. You have to advocate for policies. We are looking for creating more awareness amongst more people about the data before the negotiation on Plastics Global Treaty in November this year. You should participate because each day there's tons of nettles going into the environment every year, and this is not acceptable. This is an environment pollutant even before being used in turn to manufacture any type of product. Each of the production chain and supply chain stage should change. You should participate because plastic pellets are within and with and in the animals. It affects them and their communities that depend on them for tourist and fishery purposes. And there's some ideas that I'd like to share regarding the Global Plastics Treaty. For example, we should invite delegates and politicians to this Nurdle Hunt. You should get in touch with the press. You should share resources such as images and videos and reports. And everyone participating in this year's event can add or share their own case study report so that we can share this information with the political responsibilities and add it to the international treaty. Thank you so much, and I urge you all to be part of this project. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for that. The extra merit is that this is the only non-native presenter, so congratulations on an amazing Spanish. I can tell that you lived in Madrid for some time. Good for you. Thank you so much, Heather. After knowing what this Great Global Nurdle Hunt initiative is all about and the effect that it can have, I'd like to introduce Horacio Pérez España, who is a marine biologist with a master's degree and PhD in marine sciences. Since 2003, he's been a full-time researcher at the University Veracruzana. His main research field has been coral reefs, and since 2018, he's been involved in the study of microplastic pollution in coral reefs. Since 2019, he's been working on the nurdle monitoring with or through Nurdle Patrol in Mexico. Horacio, you can share your screen, and the floor is now yours. Thank you.
Yes. Si podemos poner pantalla completa o así ya se ve bien.
We can share full screen or maybe this format is enough.
Bueno, buenos días.
Good morning.
Es la presentación.
This is the presentation indeed.
Okay. Se ve ya en pantalla completa, ¿verdad?
There we go. We can share full screen. I think we can all see
Yo
it.
soy
Great.
investigador,
I am a
de la
researcher.
Veracruzana,
I work for the
y,
Universidad
me
Veracruzana,
integré a este proyecto
and
de
I
Nurdle
have
Patrol.
been part of this
Bueno,
Nurdle
Nurdle
Patrol
primero que
project for
este
some
proyecto
time
de
now.
AMA
Nurdle Patrol
empezó
is
en
a project
2018
of citizen
por
science
la
that started in
Asociación
2018 in
de
the
Nacional Estuarina de Misión Aranzas de la Universidad de Texas.
Mission Aransas National
Y
Estuarine
detrás
Research
del
Reserve
proyecto
in the
está el
University of
trabajo de
Texas.
Jace Tunnel
Behind the
en
project
2018 con este
is
trabajo.
the project
Y
by
ellos
Jace
empezaron por
Tunnel,
parte de
who
Estados
started
Unidos
with the
y
project,
aplicaron
and they
el
covered the
siguiente año,
US
2019,
part of it. We were invited in 2019 to be part of it, and we started working through funds of the Horacio Pérez España Foundation. We worked on the Veracruz area, which is part of the Gulf of Mexico, to the west of it. And the idea is to have a nurdle patrol and work with all data of the Gulf of Mexico, and not just the U.S. part. For those of you who might not be familiar, the Gulf of Mexico belongs to the U.S. to the north, south to Mexico, and to the east, it borders the coast of Cuba. So going back to the Nurdle Patrol, this is a citizen science project. So you look for nurdles for 10 minutes, you upload this data on the website, and this information is then available for anyone that is interested in it. So let me show you what we have been doing. We have organized availability and display of this data. When we were talking about nurdle distribution, we didn't have a lot of information. There was some of the Caribbean, but not much from Mexico. So this information is very important because we need to have this information to provide them to the governments. And this is an example of the meetings that we've been part of. This has to do with what Heather mentioned, the binding instrument, to see what we can do with the UN and plastic pollution before November. In Mexico, we had this data gap, and we started working on it. We were awarded a project back in 2021, thanks to the NOAA financing. And since then, we've been adding more than 100 organizations. There were some turtle camps which have to patrol the areas, and it's really not a big task for them to do this for 10 minutes and upload the information. Originally, the project covered the Gulf of Mexico, but with time, we have 8 new Pacific organizations which also are involved with the environment. Throughout these 2 years, we've covered all the coast of the Atlantic side of Mexico, which is about more than 2,000 kilometers. This is the surface that we've covered so far. As part of the participation in the project, we translated the material. I mean, Nurdle Patrol was already consolidated in the US part, and now we are aiming at the Mexico part of the Gulf. And to that effect, we will first have to overcome the language barrier. So we translated the website and the material. Similarly, as Heather very well mentioned, this data is uploaded to the website. There's name, last name, an interactive map as well, where you can upload the information, or you can provide the information of you or your organization, and it's available almost automatically for the rest of people who are interested in the nurdle distribution in this particular area. There's also an app, both for iOS and Android, in Spanish, and it is very user-friendly. You go to any part of the coast, any part of the beach, and you don't have to upload all the information as you do on the website. It's already captured when you log on to this app, so you just upload the figures, the data, and your geolocation. And this is linked, of course, with the main database. So you can find this information in real time, both on the website and on the app. As part of this project, we also realized that in Mexico in particular, we didn't have a forum that gathered the scientific front as well as the social or civil society organizations. They were formed for the plastic manufacturers, but not for everyone together. So we launched the first symposium in Mexico for plastic pollution here in Veracruz. And I think it was very important because there were many individuals and organizations interested in the continuation of this forum. So the second symposium was organized in the northwest of Mexico in Ensenada. We first had the funds for the project. The second one, we didn't have as much, so we had to charge a fee, an enrollment fee, but we had more participants. And we're organizing the third symposium in Mexico, which will take place in a month or so. And we did receive finance from the Nurdle Patrol and the Ferguson, I'm sorry, scholarship. And we then, as we can see, increased the interest and had more participants, not just from the academia, but also from social organizations in order to create more awareness on the importance of plastic pollutants. We are currently working on the consolidation of an association or an organization to finance the next symposiums so that we can work jointly with other organizations that are interested in plastic pollution. We have the website, thanks to the support to the Higher State Institute. And now in our next Congress, we'll try to consolidate it so that we can achieve critical mass for these to become a snowball in a positive way. We also are present on social media, of course, Facebook, Instagram. You can see here on our screen how we announced the Great Nurdle Hunt for this month. And we also have, as I said, our Instagram profile where we share information and try to disseminate the importance of plastic pollution. This work is really thanks to the students of the university or the Universidad Veracruzana who are part of the project, and particularly Minerva. This is the girl with the glasses in the left picture, who has been a tremendous help in our endeavors. Thank you. This is all for me. Thank you. Thank you, Horacio, so much. This is really inspiring. We can tell that passion can move mountains, really. So thank you for sharing your experience with us today. Without further ado, we'll now present the project Mingas por el Mar. Cecilia Torres will present the project. She is a digital communicator specialized in tourism and environmental projects, director of the Mingas Foundation. She's a free diver, surfer, and environmental activist. Cecilia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jordi. It's a pleasure to be here with you today with people who are introducing changes, inspiring people to work more on the global nurdle hunt in Ecuador. We have a movement for cleaning up natural areas in Uruguay. It has existed for more or less 8 years. We've been working on cleaning up rivers, the bottom of the sea, volcanoes, mountains, mangroves. It's incredible to see how pollution is reaching out to many different sites worldwide. We, as Jordi mentioned, used to walk out to the beach after surfing and found that everything was polluted. I would like to explain the history of our movement and why we joined the Nurdle Hunt movement. Minga means collective work in support of the community. It's an Andean term. And this has mobilized a lot of people. 4 of us started, and now we reach out to 25 towns or localities. Here you can see the map of Ecuador. You can find us along the coast, including the Galapagos Islands. We not only cleaned up, but we used to take samples too and record data. It was impossible to bring about a change in Ecuador's public policies if we didn't have data to show what was happening. We came across situations in which there were sticks and other things too. So we started showing what we found in the sea and in the animals, and more scientists started joining, saying that we needed to have more data to be able to advocate at the policy level. I'm going to show you a video of the Reef brand that has funded some of our nurdle hunts. We try and turn this into a fun activity, although it's linked to science. In this video, I'm going to show you we have a protected area in Santa Elena that is on the Ecuadorian coast with a lot of marine biodiversity, but that is where we find more microplastics and nurdles, regretfully. There's no sound to the video, at least I'm not hearing anything.
Nuestros grupos están conformados por líderes
Our
ambientales que
groups are
reciben
made up by
capacitaciones en liderazgo,
environmental
educación
leaders who are trained in leadership, environmental education, products, legal advisory services, and raising funds for specific projects. Carla Espinel is participating today, and I'd like her to talk about her experience as a leader in Salinas. Not all places are hunting nurdles because we are not present everywhere, but Salinas is receiving a lot of this kind of pollution. Something missing in Ecuador, I believe, is that we teach what plastic is made of. We know it's polluting material when it's in the waste, but no one thought about how it had been made. At any lecture or talk at a university, at a company, where we thought we'd get a good answer, when we asked them what are plastics made of, they said made of sand, but no one thought of oil, of petroleum. We use plastics so much and we're not aware of what it's made. It was important because that triggered the conversation about why it's important to reduce consumption because we are using a non-renewable resource, and this helped us call the attention of authorities because they were unaware of this too. 2018, we carried out a sampling exercise, a very specific one, and we were able to determine that most of the pollution, 86% of it, came from plastic products. And we found the top of the bottles, glasses, and other things. And to be able to go to the National Assembly and ask them to regulate this. This is a reality. Ecuador has a law banning single-use plastics in protected areas. But it's been a little difficult with all the political lobbying by the plastic industry. But INC for us is a tool that we hope will be useful, because although this has been talked about very openly in Ecuador, we need more assistance so that people become aware of the importance of not only no longer using these resources, but to also be aware of how toxic this material is. And we must also understand that all that we find at supermarkets and shops comes from nature, and it's been turned into a product. Many times we are unaware of this, and we say, well, we recycle, but that's not enough. You have to reduce too, because you're taking really treasured resources to make material that will then be discarded. This strongest message for us was to show them that the raw material in plastic starts polluting even before it's turned into a plastic product. People thought that the pellets came from nature, that they were shells, that they were part of the marine ecosystem. But telling them this was not so was a shock for many people in Ecuador. We carry out cleaning activities with companies, with universities, with adults, with children, and the whole of the audience was unaware of this, and they had to understand too that the impact starts upstream during the first phase of a product's life cycle. It was important to tell them that the feedstock polluted as raw material that leaks from containers. On the Galapagos Island, it was also shocking to see the amount of pellets we found. So we started sampling microplastics. And it was interesting to see how these were hidden, concealed in the sand among other microplastics. We think that sometimes there are microplastics in manufactured products, but finding raw material was also a good experience for our leaders. Carla, I want her to take the floor afterwards. For her, it was interesting to carry out this kind of activity. Frank Giles visited Ecuador, and they motivated us to carry out this kind of sampling exercise. We think that this is an educational activity to make people aware of this, and telling them that we must be very aware of what we buy in our daily lives. These are very short videos on how we find these things. It's not easy. It's difficult many times to do this. You've got to really look out for them. In some cases, it's difficult to get to the nests. These, as I said, are very short videos showing how we clean up, so you can see the size of these pellets. Sometimes they are transparent, there are different colors, but in Ecuador we are finding more white pellets. Something important to mention too is that there are different kinds of plastics. There are lots of pellets that we can't see because they go or sink in the water. I mean, others float, but there are many that sink. So we explain this because people realize, wow, this is what we can see, but there's a lot on the ocean bed too. This is overall information. These are the Minga campaigns in the last few years, the weight in kilograms of waste collected. And this is the amount of nurdles that we've collected each year. What you mentioned in Mexico is very interesting. It would that you have an app. It would be good to give everyone a tool, all those willing to carry out these sampling exercises. These we collected from our leaders, but I'm sure that people are doing this in different cleanup exercises. We don't carry out nurdle hunts on all beaches, and we can't find them on all beaches, but in 2021 there was a significant number. After the pandemic on the Galapagos Islands, we found 5,736, and we already have our date for the nurdle hunt this year. And I'd like to emphasize that we are the only species on Earth producing waste. So this leads us to thoroughly reflecting on the matter. I mean, there's certain things in our daily lives that we can do. If we think that the problem is overwhelming, we may think that governments and governmental organizations should undertake the responsibility. But in our daily environmental education, we are trying to teach that actions must be carried out on a daily basis. And these are things that we tell them to do. We are not perfect. We may make mistakes, but we don't have to experience that echo anxiety saying there's nothing we can do, the world will come to an end. I mean, no, people must be hopeful. This video shows the origin of what underlies our consumption habits. 4,500 years ago, a huge molecular cloud burst in the air. For 2 billion years, the planet evolved, and there are a series now of bacteria, algae, and fish and plants absorb the sun rays, dinosaurs, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, they all live and die. Every year we find bodies, and the pressure increases, and there came oil. Experts in geology took years to identify oil on Earth. Offshore rigs were built, and then along came the petrochemical factories that made these plastic pellets that travel across the world. And then they're plastic spoons too. Plastic is wrapped up, put in boxes, then on pallets, and then the truck goes to a port and they load boats, and this spoon travels thousands of kilometers where it is picked up, and then the spoons end up on a shelf. You buy it with the money you've earned, and you take this plastic spoon home. Now tell me, do you still believe it's an effort to use some other sort of spoon just for the sake of having to wash it? Thank you all who washed a spoon today.
Bueno, para cerrar, para septiembre
to wrap up today, in September, we have these two microplastic mingas where we will collect nurdles and we will share with FIDRA all the data we shall gather. I do have the homework to review the application shared by our speaker from Mexico. It's important to have and to talk about this at the INC. We are part of the Zero Waste Alliance in Ecuador. We will send a representative. Our attorney, Adriana Mojano, will be there at the INC. We'll share this information with her. We have not considered it as a specific issue. We're talking about toxicity. I think it's very important where we have pictures and evidence to use this information for our next INC. If Carlita, the leader from Salinas, can tell us more about the Nurdle Hunt. Carlita, are you around? It should be quite short because we're running out of time. If there's no time, yeah, we can always spare a minute, of course. But she doesn't seem to be around. It's okay.
Por ahí está Carlita. Bueno, Carlita,
Oh,
tienes un minuto.
there's Carla. Carla, you have a one minute for your fame speech. Thank you for this time. I'm learning a lot. I'm Carla, leader from Salinas. This is where we find these pellets. And for me, when I found out about them, as most people around the world, I couldn't believe that this was actually plastic. I thought it was part of nature, really. And this is how we carry out these hunts and these cleaning activities. Every time I meet new people, they have no idea about this. What are we gathering? What are we picking up? It's so small. How we will be able to see this? But every time you see one, you fine tune your sight, and it's a learning curve, right? You start seeing them more often within the time that we have for this hunt. And that's all for me. Thank you, Carla. Carla is a fan of the Nurdle hunts. So thank you so much for this time, for the opportunity, and we look forward to new meetings like this to learn more about this topic. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Cecilia and Carla. Your presentation was very good indeed. Thank you. And inspiring as well, the work you've been carrying out. I will now ask the audience to start writing your questions in the chat box. I'm sure there will be a few that we can answer towards the end of our meeting. And now I'd like to introduce Ana Antillanca. She is a dedicated environmentalist leading significant community service projects aimed at the climate change mitigation. She founded Menos Plástico es Fantástico in Mahahual. This is a nonprofit based in the southern Mexican Caribbean, and that was in 2015. As director of Menos Plásticos es Fantástico, Ana focuses on reducing and eliminating plastic consumption within the local community. Ana, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Jordi. Thank you, everyone. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for this invitation to such an important webinar to talk about a topic that is not visible for many around the world. My name is Ana Antillanca, and I'm going to talk about the nurdles in the Mexican Caribbean in Mahahual area. Okay, so who are we? We are a civil association, an NGO, located at the south of the Mexican Caribbean. And through community and educational activities, we aim at reducing the plastic consumption in the population with an aim of protecting the environment, creating actions and solutions that reinvent our consumption habits. We've been working since 2015 based on the community volunteering activities to accelerate this transition to a life free of plastic. In this picture that you see at the bottom of the screen, you'll see our beautiful Mexican Caribbean. But unfortunately, one of the worst issues in this area is the marine current of Yucatan, which comes through Ixcalac. And this is the first area or the first part where we see the waste, and Mayahual is the second community most affected by the plastics going through the marine current. Next, please. Thank you. The Nurdle Hunt in Mahahual has a certain timeline. I want to share with you how we all started with this. In 2018, we carried out the first Mahahual Festival, a free of plastic festival. We organized this with Manuel Maqueda, who is an expert in plastic pollution and circular economy. Together with the biologist Ryan Copper, we carried out the first study on microplastics in the Punta Herradura area, which is where the marine turtles have their habitats. And this is the first time that we saw this issue as a community. It was thanks to this festival that we realized that the most important effect was, or the accumulation was really in the coastal area, which is a very important area for the turtle nests. What is really a nurdle hunt? We, as the previous speaker mentioned, we carry out many of these clean activities to mitigate this issue, and turtles be able to recover these nests. At the end of our cleaning activities, we have 45 minutes of cleaning itself and 5 to 10 minutes for nurdle hunts. So most of the data that we gathered have to do with these actions in particular. Where do we carry out these clean activities or the nurdle hunts? Well, throughout the coastal line, because we live there, but we're also focusing on the nest or nesting areas. The careta careta turtle is the one really living there, which are very vulnerable and important areas for us as well. These are annual figures that we gathered since 20. Well, we actually have 2019 up to date. We see a variation throughout these figures. We managed to gather 42,278 nurdles, all recovered by local people, local community. There is a variation in figures, as you can see. It doesn't mean that there are more or less nurdles, but it's actually the fact that more local people are able to identify them now. We've created awareness amongst them, and they spend more time in the collection of them, and that is why the numbers or the figures have changed. All the coastal line is filled with nurdles. We cannot really talk about a free nurdle area. Next, please. Let's talk about actions and solutions. As a civil organization, we know that the plastic pollution issue and nurdles is a very serious issue. We don't want to just stop at this problem. We're looking for solutions, how we will gather and join efforts and support each other. So the nurdle hunts takes place in each of the cleaning activities. Something very important for us is education and awareness of the problem for the visitors of the turtle camp, which is located at the Sunny Turtle, and the community at large, of course, where we focus on the schools of Mahalal. And we also launched a pilot project, which is the creation of some jewelry pieces. We can't really talk about a successful project because we ended up using other designs, but we experimented with it, and it was a good pilot project. We've also carried out other efforts. In 2019, we sent the first sample of nurdles to Japan. We tried to create alliances within the country in Mexico, but unfortunately, we didn't find researchers or tools to carry out pollution nurdle samples, and we got in touch with an expert in Japan. And on December 11th, 2019, through Menos Plástico, Mexico sent the first sample for it to be studied in Japan, evaluate the contaminants of these products. In October 2021, we were invited personally by the Marine Sciences Institute of the University of Texas to receive our Nurdle Patrol kit. We have it full now. We're not sure about the next steps, but we continue trying to engage in these alliances with other universities, both locally and internationally, so that we can have and more students and people from the community so that they can be part of the nurdle hunts, which are very important to remove them from the ecosystem. Well, there's future actions and steps to take in 2024, thanks to the biologist Krista. She designed these T-shirts with the nurdles and a bit of information on those. The idea is to have these T-shirts available to people in our community so that more people can know and be aware of what they are and what they look like, so that we can join efforts in having more data and removing them from the environment. On September 27th, we will carry out the Great Nurdle Hunt in Sandy Turtle at 9 a.m. and we invite everyone to join us. This is where you'll find our social media website. If you are interested in getting in touch with us, we're not just focusing on nurdle hunts, but we have other line of projects. But today, the focus is the nurdle hunts, and that's why we talked about this. Thank you so much for the coordinator, Maria Torres, and the site technical experts, together with the volunteers and students who arrived to our camp here in Mahahual, and the community at large, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ana, for your work and your presentation. I think it's clear for everyone that through cooperation we can achieve great results. We all work to make this invisible problem more visible, and as Carla very well mentioned at the beginning, it's sometimes hard to keep the spirits up, and I think it's this kind of meetings that can help us continue with alliances and new synergies. All right.
As Danny says, happy nurdle hunting, and thanks everyone. And we encourage you to organize this kind of event, and hopefully we'll have good outcomes from our actions this month. Thank you all very much.